So today we're going to talk about post-flop play from early position in single-raised pots. And the three key ideas are this interplay between your hand, the flop texture, and your opponent's range. And I know that this is something that everybody thinks about in any post-flop situation anyhow, but I want to highlight some things. So when it comes to your hand, we really need to be thinking about what kind of cards are going to be good for us to barrel, and just how strong is our hand relative to our opponent's range. Now, the barrel cards are also going to interplay with the flop texture and your opponent's range, so all these things are connected. As far as flop texture, we want to look at the presence and the number of high cards. And by high cards, I mean queens, kings, and aces. Jacks are okay, but jacks I would consider more of like a medium card. So like 7, 8, 9, 10 jack, I would kind of consider those medium cards. In the presence of draws, specifically just the number of straight draws, people are a lot more likely to have a straight draw than they are to have a flush draw. Opponent's range. Most opponents are going to be tightest in the small blind when calling, loosest on the button, looser in the cutoff, and then middle position and big blind, it depends. Adjusted for VPIP, obviously the looser your opponent is in general, the looser they're going to have, the looser their continuation range is going to be against your opens from any position, and the presence and absence of fish. So if there are major fish in the blinds, then we expect people to be calling more from the cutoff. We expect them to be calling more in position. And just in general, if there's fish left to play, then we expect people to be calling more. On the other hand, if there are very aggressive players left to act, then we expect people to play a little bit tighter. So just as a reminder, this is a variation of my early position, middle position opening range. And we talked in the last video about when you should tighten up and when you should loosen up. Now, so that's going to play into our hand. Now, let's talk about the opponent's continuation range against early position and middle position raises. So I have a tight, average, and loose range there. And we already talked about, I would say most players will play most pocket pairs from just about any position, especially in the blinds. And these other factors, like their position, their VPIP, and the presence of absence of fish, are going to move their range either up or down, depending on those three factors. And we're going to give examples of how all these things kind of interplay. So when I'm looking to continue post-flop, here's a general outline of my thought process. This is not 100%, every time, but in general, we want to look at how we connect with the flop. But we're going to come right back to this. We're going to look at a bunch of hand types. So in the last video, I gave you guys this little chart which had different kind of hands and different kind of flop textures. And now we're going to add a villain type. So we've got our hand, we've got the flop texture. Now we're going to look at our opponent's range. And we're going to go through this general thought process. So to do this, we are going to bring in Flopzilla and start with our first example.